thinking about this and reminiscing. So obviously Amy and I are both thrilled that you're all here to help us celebrate this happy occasion. It's amazing that Sam and Ania have known each other for 8 years, or at this tender age, a third of their lives, at age 24. And they've already brought each other so much happiness, more than many people perhaps experience in their whole lifetime as a couple. So it's been wonderful for Amy and I, along with Grace and Eugene, to witness the kindness and consideration with which they've treated each other and how they've grown and matured as we watch them together over this sort of last third of their life. So this was a really easy speech to write in a way, because the Burchuk and O'Donnell Couchman families have some history. And it's actually a history that goes back before even Sam and Ania were here, as some of you know. So we moved here in 1987 with Jacob and Ben, and I was a new faculty member at Duke, and Grace was a third-year resident in OBGYN, and there's certain images and memories you retain, and I have this memory of being in Duke South with Grace, and we were together in an OR case, scrubbed, and I don't remember what it was, but I just remember being together with her. And then I didn't really know Eugene at that point, but as many of you know who are in my closer family, I've had poison ivy about 20 times during my life. And, so I had a particularly bad case. It was actually in the hospital in 1988. And it's kind of a long story. Poison ivy led to steroids, led to ulcer, et cetera, et cetera. But Eugene was the chief resident of medicine, which is a very prestigious position. It's sort of a leadership position. And because I knew Grace, he sort of stopped by and checked on me. And I was so appreciative of his clinical acumen and just the consideration and him stopping by and seeing me. And then a year later, in 1989, Amy was pregnant with our third child. And back in those days, we didn't flash the ultrasound machine around, so we didn't know whether it was going to be a boy or a girl, but we knew that Grace had to be the obstetrician to take care of Amy while she was pregnant. And in fact, when the day came and Sam was born, Grace was the first one to ever touch Sam. She brought Sam into the world, and I mean, I'm sure none of us thought that it could possibly be. But my ever considerate wife, who at night we sort of spend most of our time talking about who we should write thank you notes to and who we should buy gifts for. So she went down. She wanted to get a gift for Grace to thank her because she'd been treated like a VIP. And one of the older boys' teachers at Sewell Elementary School, her husband, had just opened a pottery shop called Pringle Pottery in what was then a brand new development south of Chapel Hill called Fearington Village. And in fact, that's where Sam and Ania will be getting married tomorrow. And from what I've heard, that pottery bowl has sat in their kitchen holding fruit and mail and other sorts of things for the last 2 decades. So it really is quite an intertwined root that we've had. Right, until recently Sam did not even know where that bowl had come from, even though he had seen it many times. So just a few words about Sam as a baby. The Kohlers and Patmans are probably the only ones here who know what Sam's nickname was when he was a baby. With Amy, was Boobalini, or Boo Boo for short. And one of the pictures in this slideshow reminds me, there's a picture of Sam sitting in a high chair with a piece of asparagus that's kind of wilted in his hand. And one of the first vocalizations he ever made at that stage of life was, "Mi-ani, mi-ani, mi-ani." He was the third child, so he was kind of pounding the table and asking for attention. And mi-ani meant me hungry. Ani was hungry, it was his pronunciation. And you know, it sort of dawned on us when we were writing this together that Mi-ani, he was calling out for Ania. Mi-ani was not me hungry, it was my Ania. So finally they met in 9th grade and spent a lot of time together at Durham Academy and Mr. Edwards' advisory group. And before too long, they were appreciating each other more and more. And by the end of high school, they were Samya, which is Sam plus Ania. They had T-shirts that said Samya. And at that point, they wanted to follow Jacob and Ben had been to Duke, and Sam was applying to Duke, and Ania was applying to Duke. And so the night of the early decision, Sam and Amy and I were nervous. We were sitting there. We got the good news that Sam had been accepted to Duke, but we didn't know yet what Ania's fate was. And I think one of the happiest moments of our life, and certainly Sam's life, is when he found out that Ania had also been accepted and that they would be together. So again, I'm sure that's one of those moments that they're never going to forget. And I don't think I've ever seen Amy as nervous or hyped up, even with pregnancies. And Eugene and Grace were probably also in a similar state of excitement. Anyway, it's been wonderful for us to see, because we have 3 boys and they have 3 girls. So Sam, not having any sisters, it's been a really tremendous opportunity for him to open a whole new dimension of himself by getting to also know Cameron and Helen, who've become his sisters. And the O'Donnell Couchmans have welcomed him into their house and on vacations to the beach and to Colorado and to the UK, and really have treated him as a member of their family. And likewise, I think Anya's accompanied us to the Caribbean and to Hawaii and all kinds of other wonderful trips to Tampa, and has become part of our family, and not just gotten to know his brothers, Jacob and Ben, but also more recently Kelly and the next generation, Elena and Jack, and Anya's now Auntie Ania. So, it's so exciting when Elena says, Ania. It's just a real thrill for all of us. So there was one trip that the Burchuk family took to Greece. I had a meeting in Greece, and Amy was excited, and Sam was excited, and Ania was going to come, but Ania couldn't come with us because I think she had a dancing competition. And Sam was really grouchy on that trip. So I think it was telling that Sam was just not complete without Ania. And so just to conclude and to raise a glass and toast, we wish Sam and Ania, or Samia, a life full of positives. I have no doubt that they will have the full love and support of the Burchuk and O'Donnell Couchman families. They will also have the support of all of you who come here to help us join in the celebration of their union. Thank you. And now, we have a special few words from St. Christopher and John.